Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of We Create the Vibes podcast, where we go out and find some of the dopest DJs out there creating vibes everywhere they go. Today's special guest is a DJ, producer. I believe he's still a record label owner as well.
Two record labels, actually.
Two record labels. He goes by the name of Chavez. Chavez, what's going on, my brother?
Chilling, bro. Just every day, trying to push it further and further.
I hear that, man. It's a pleasure to have you on, man. I appreciate you taking time out your schedule. It's been a minute, man. Ladies and gents, y'all probably don't know. I do know this brother over here many years ago, dating back to Capitol Records. Was it 15, 14 years ago? Like
at least, yeah.
Probably 15 years ago. So that's crazy.
Yeah, we're both professional ice cup getters.
Professional interns, man. Ice cup getters. All right, man. So talk to me, man. Originally from what? North Jersey, right?
Yeah. So born in Jersey City, raised in New York City, and just Jersey bred my whole life.
All right. So break down your early beginnings, man. What was it like growing up in Jersey? Also, what was some of the musical influences? What was playing in the crib?
Oh, man. I mean, definitely growing up in Jersey City, like, when I look at it now, I never realized the type of environment I was until I got older. Until I had friends saying, he's like, remember we used to like have games over who could smash the most crack vials.
Wow.
when you're little, that doesn't register because it's just like when you go outside and, I'm so grateful that I guess the environments I were in, helped like encourage my imagination. With that in mind, I mean, musically, man. So my dad used to, if anyone's familiar with the Funny All-Stars, not saying he was in it, but he used to watch this sort of like salsa collective, actually like pioneers of the genre. He used to go clubbing religiously, follow these guys. Like he has whole movies of like block parties in like Washington Heights and Queens. Okay. He has like a museum. Like it's crazy. His record collection is insane. He loved funk. My dad was into everyone from like James Brown to Prince. My mom was a little bit more into, she liked freestyle. She likes some baladas. So I was hearing like, if anyone, was into Latin music, like people like Leo Dan, Rocio Durcal, and we grew up in the hip hop days, man. I would say probably my first album that I wasn't supposed to have was The Chronic. And I remember my mom telling me, she was like, you can't listen to this unless you listen to it with your sister. And, I was like, I thought my sister was lame. So I never ended up really listening to it the way that I wanted to. I would like wait till they were asleep, turn it down really low. But then, things sort of evolved too. Like I became a big Nirvana fan. I started getting to like Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, all these alternative groups. Like I guess the emo stuff that some of the younger people were getting swept up in. And then honestly, it came back to hip hop. And it's funny too, because there's something that always stands out to me is when I see like early hip hop footage of like the videos I saw. I remember being little, my sister walked in on me imitating, like I was like scratching records. I always thought that was so fascinating to me just because it was like, I understood that there was a synergy between the dance floor and what was going on back there. Like there was something special that was happening there. Fast forward, staying into hip hop, I used to go to Salvation Army a lot, just buying whatever records I could find. I remember going to the Salvation Army in Jersey City once, and I found this insane hip hop collection, probably about close to 200 records.
Okay.
KRS-One, Nas, Big Daddy Kane, Biggie, like it was a gold mine. And they were selling records. They started giving me records for free. I probably bought that collection for about like $70. It was some crazy thing because they said that somebody had bought it in and just it never went anywhere.
That's nuts.
It's insane.
I would keep those records even if I didn't have a record player. Like I would like, what? Are you sick?
I mean, so I was lucky enough that I had a friend. He produced for this Newark-based hip hop group. I don't know if you're familiar with a group called the Artifacts. They have a song called The Wrong Side of the Track.
Yeah.
So he produced for El Sensei, and he worked with DJ Chaos, and we're sort of just like hanging out with him, like learning what he used to do. We used to just go into random stores and just like Chinese restaurants and be like, do you guys have records? And I would say maybe like most they could say is no, right? Probably like 3 times out of maybe 7, they'd have like a basement full of records they had no idea that were down there because it was just storage to them. They purchased this building to start a restaurant, and then whatever was in there, they just threw downstairs. Like I remember once we got like this Latin collection, basically asking them and paying them like $50, and it was probably like 50, 60 records.
Well,
so there was always the obsession with like trying to find records. And then I think as I got older, the more I learned about producers, the more I learned about guys like Pete Rock, DJ Premier, I kind of wanted to get into the production aspect, which is great because I already had records waiting for me.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
it was just a matter of like, okay, now how do they do this? Again, luckily I had somebody that showed me. I would say probably around the age of like 16 going to 17. I had some friends that introduced me to like computer software, Cool Edit, Reason, and things like that. So we would take these like really crappy belt drive turntables, hook
Okay.
them up to our TV. From
Okay.
the TV, use the outs and plug it into like a crappy sound card
Okay.
and sample into these programs. And I mean, now it's you have so much, you know, time as far as like sampling and things like that. So we would just get like the little chunks of the records that we wanted and just have
Okay.
like unorganized mess of things. I remember, you know, spending like 1 or 2 days just getting samples and then not knowing what they were. So it's like, I don't know if I got drums, I don't know if I got vocals,
I'm
but just
just
going through it like piece by piece. And I would show these sort of lack thereof beats to some of these, like, you know, meeting more and more people within that circle of like Elder Sensei and things like that. And eventually I learned they were using samplers. I think when I got to like 17, 18, I was able to actually get like a really, really tough job. It was a labor job, but they paid me so good. You know, like 17-year-olds should not be making like $2,000 a month.
no. At all.
At
Like, what you
all.
gonna do with that money, man? You were making $2,000 a month.
But it was only for like a summertime. You know,
Still, man, that's still. I mean, yeah, it's summer, but still, like, you got what, 6K to work with, some
well,
records,
on top of that, I was still
DJ
going to
gear.
school. I
Oh,
was also paying some of my own tuition. I
okay.
was digging, and then I put money aside. I remember going on Craigslist. I sort of got them concurrently, and I was like, let me buy turntables. Let me buy a mixer. I knew I wanted Technics 1200s no matter what,
Yep.
because you know that's always been the standard.
Standard, yeah.
The next thing I knew I wanted was a Vestax PMC. So actually, check this out. I
You got
ended up
that
buying
mixer?
one. I ended up buying one recently
Okay.
because I wanted to get back into scratching.
Ooh, yo,
Yeah.
you taking it back, boy. Yo, you taking it back. Yo. That's so crazy because, yo, when I like first got into DJing and like when I would see YouTube videos like, yo, I gotta get that mixer. But I never ever got that mixer though. But that's the ideal scratch
It
originator
is.
mixer right
It
there.
is very underrated.
Yeah,
Extremely
yo,
underrated.
that's fire. How much did you get that for, if you don't mind me asking?
Recently, I probably got it for about like 80 to 90 bucks.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I got the '06 because the one I got when I was younger was the '05. I
Okay.
don't know why I got the '05 because they had like a microphone thing, but I've never done the microphone stuff. So I just figured get the '06 because it's just the basics. You know, I just need one, side two, fader, and that's it.
That's it.
So it was like, yeah, I guess once I got that, it was just a matter of just like learning it. So I used to just spend summers literally locking myself into a room, making beats, spending time beat juggling and things like that. Cause I had learned about scratching and DMC and what all that stuff meant. And I remember like seeing videos of people like Rob Swift, hearing them on the radio too, and just trying to figure out what they were doing.
Oh, yeah.
How does somebody make these sounds with a piece of wax?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I spent a lot of time doing that. I really think like probably the huge turning point in terms of like, I wouldn't say losing the love, but wanting to transition to something new. My favorite producer, Jay Dilla, had passed.
Okay.
That to me was like a huge shock to my system because to me that was a dream of like working for it. Like, okay, the goal now is to just get in the studio with this guy or let him hear your music somehow. Just let him know what that music, you know, hearing Tribe Called Quest, hearing Far Side, hearing Busta Rhymes stuff. And I remember just being young and looking at the credits of just like he's inhuman. So it's like the fact that this music can bring you closer to somebody like that was always, I think, an aspiration of mine. So at that same time, I don't know, whatever you believe in, or the person above, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, it works in mysterious ways. I had a friend that got signed with an artist who was a New York City legend in house music.
I know you're talking about.
You know, okay.
Dope, man. I know you're talking about him. Yeah.
He was working with Kenny, and then we were going to some party. I forgot what party it was because it was somebody he had met in Kenny Dope's studio.
Okay.
And these two young kids at the time, if anyone has ever heard of the Martinez brothers, this is like the Martinez brothers were like just starting out. I had heard of them like just in the rumblings of just learning about this new world and things like that. And we went to go check them out. And then we ended up just linking up with them at the end of the show. And I remember talking to Christian, who's the younger brother, and I forgot what record I mentioned. The first thing he was like, how do you know that? And I was like, oh, you know, I have that record and I know Dilla sampled it on this. And because this kid was like 15 at the time and I'm, you know, getting closer to 20 years old, his encyclopedia of music was just out of this world. And for him to know this obscure reference of like this progressive rock record, just we had a connection right away. The friend he was with who ended up being my label partner now, I found out he lived in my town. So at the end of the night, you know, they go to, you know, because they're still young kids, so their parents are taking them home to go upstate. And then me and, you know, this new friend I made, you know, he lives in Weehawken, I live in Union City. And then the next day he's like, yo, you know, since we definitely have like similar records, like, would you mind just playing records? Because he didn't have a setup at the time. And I think I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, you don't want to come back from class, come over to my place and we'll jam out. And honestly, that turned into, you know, like 13, you know, 12, 13-hour sessions easily. Just sharing music, sharing ideas, sharing mixes and things like that. And I just like, it was a huge jump into electronic music and just sort of learning more and more about what that world looked like. Because he had been touring with Kenny before he was friends with the Martinez brothers, I think in the early 90s, like mid 90s, when like Kenny was at his apex. I mean, Kenny's still a force now, but at that time, it was like when Kenny was getting, you know, when, you know, guys were making like 5 figures for like a Janet Jackson remix, you know, for a remix that you don't hear on the radio.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, you know, we really hit it off. And I think just we both decided, since we were both moving in the same direction, just to continue to, you know, number one, the friendship was more than anything I could have asked for. You know, I think musically, it's important to have not only people that you connect and identify with, but people that you also share like similar values. Because especially with dance music, I feel like dance music can get very personal with the way you're presenting yourself. Because there's not an emphasis on sort of like, I mean, yeah, you can be like a top like 40 EDM DJ. Sure, there's people that are like that. But as far as the underground thing, like you're spending a lot of time trying to look for the music that you identify with, that you think works on the dance floor. So there's a lot of like being vulnerable in that. Cause sometimes you hear a record and, you know, there could be a part or two in there that you don't know how it's gonna go over.
Hit.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And then you have that moment where it's like, you're like, okay, what's gonna happen? And it's like, let's say it bombs and it ruins the whole night. Like it can really defeat you. So with that in mind, it was like, you know, I felt like I had met a brother more than anything else. And, you know, we started to, I guess, more tackle the New York City underground. I think the first party we played at individual times, Tony Touch had a party on Sunday in the old Funk Box at Santos. Yeah.
Yeah. I never seen the videos. I always wanted to go. I never went, but I'm like, yo.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun. So my first Funk Box actually, I thought you know, I forgot who played after me, but there was this whole thing of like, you know, they put me on because they thought it was gonna be a slow night.
Okay.
Back to the scene, like, let's see how he does. And that night it apparently rained really bad. So it was like a pipe had burst with water over the DJ booth right before anything started. I'm already freaking out. I'm like, this is not gonna go over so well. Like everything's going nuts. And then there was some game going on that apparently the game ended early and people from the game are all coming into well, not to the party specifically, but everybody was making their way back to, I believe Santos was in.
Oh, Santos. Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn, I'm so far removed from New York. I only remember like where Santos is exactly at. Yeah. Damn.
I want to say Santos. I mean, it was definitely downtown somewhere. Yeah. I remember it being close to Canal Street, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I want to say not Bleecker though.
Actually, it might have been on Bleecker.
I walked past Santos so many times. I actually been to Santos one time, and I think the kid Daytona was over there. This is like probably
upstairs or downstairs.
I think I was downstairs. This is like 2008. I never been upstairs though.
Yeah, so Funkbox was downstairs, and I remember like right before I got on, I saw like 5 people walk in, and it was like 10 people walked in, and then just people started like walking in after that, like. And I was like, "Oh crap! Okay, I gotta get going."
People coming in here, man.
I'm just sweating. You know, they probably, you know, for me to see like, I think the room probably filled about like a solid 200, 300. But just to get like to already have 15 people on the dance floor already dancing at the first record, it was like, it was very, very, very daunting. But I remember, I think ending, what happened?
I know you probably felt like, yo, I got to maintain this, keep this energy going, and take it to another level. But damn, I can imagine how you was feeling. Damn.
Yeah, and then it's just like, you know, I'm coming from the world of like, I've only been playing my records in my basement.
Okay.
What am I gonna do? And then I remember, like, I think I played a record off like a CDJ or something like that to end, and it's like the what is it called? The CDJ started skipping.
Oh.
And then luckily, really quickly, I just pulled out like a random record, played it over, and I just remember like everybody losing it. And that was like my last record. And then people, you know, they were like, I definitely got the affirmation of like, oh my God, you played so well. That was, I would say, probably my first night really playing. Honestly, I don't even know what year that was. I want to say maybe like 2000, maybe 11 or something like that.
Wow. Okay.
Definitely a long, long time ago.
I got to tell you this though. Like,
But
I don't think I ever told you this because I tell a lot of people, but I have to personally thank you. All right. So around the few years, like through Capital, I remember coming to your crib. I had one of my frat brothers record a song. I don't know if you remember that. But yo, you really changed my mind on like how to look at DJing. Like in the aspect, you know, you probably don't see that now because obviously I'm in this forever. So, you know, there's certain things I do that, you know, per se, if I didn't have to, I wouldn't do per se. Like there's certain music I play that if I didn't have to, on everything I love, I would never play it. But you did really change my mind about what a DJ is supposed to be, how to DJ a party, how to just even approach DJing, like how to look at it. And even I love what you said about when you connect with other DJs or you connect with other people with music, making sure that they align with your values, even how you feel about music and how you feel about certain things. So I think like that's very important because you can't really form a brotherhood with per se with another DJ or somebody in music if y'all don't really have the same like values or y'all don't really see eye to eye on like the very important things to you. So like, yeah, I mean, I tell people all the time, like, yeah, I interned with this cool ass dude that went to Ramapo and like, yo, he changed. Like, I wasn't really that much. I knew about house music. I'm from Jersey. I just wasn't really, I didn't know I didn't really study house music. I didn't know the history of house music, but like, yo, you put me onto that. And I'm not that like, I haven't dove back that deep into house music, but I have appreciation and love for it. I understand there is a big difference over here, and even a big difference, you know, compared to Europe and some of the other continents as well. Like it's not the same. Like what you're hearing on the radio, like I'm not gonna say it's not Real House or whatever, you know, that's a different conversation. But yeah, there's different aspects to this game. So I just definitely want to thank you because yeah, you really like changed my mind about a lot of things. Like, you know, even to this day, I still hold that with me. But yeah, you really like if I don't know, man, it's you and another guy. Like I don't know if I didn't meet you two guys, I don't know what possibly I would be doing as far as like in the I don't know, like I probably would be DJing like terrible ass events, like you know what I mean. Like y'all really changed my mind, like you know. So I just want to thank you for that. Like I don't think I ever told you that, but don't think I didn't. I learned a lot, like just watching you, like just literally watching you. I learned a lot, you know.
well, you know, all I could say is, you know, that's an honor to hear because, you know, at the end of the day, I think that should be the reason for all DJs is to like, you want to leave your mark. You want to be able to inspire, you know, the next group of guys to do it. Because it was funny because somebody had asked me today about like playing vinyl and things like that. They're like, oh, it's so cool that you play vinyl. And I was like, yo, can you count to four? They're like, yeah. I was like, well, you can play vinyl. I was like, it's not so much about like knowing how to do it. It's about doing it in a way where you're able to either give a message or tell a story or be able to like have somebody experience all these ranges of emotions. And that's the art of DJing. And I think we should all take it upon ourselves to take that very seriously because, you know, we always want to leave it in a better place than where we started because some of us didn't start, you know, having this like, and I'm sorry, that's my dog in my background.
Oh, it's all good, man.
Yes, I mean, you know, some of us, again, like we had to work really hard to get the gear we had, and you know, just to be able to get to the place. I mean, obviously I've seen your growth, man. Like I've seen you go from radio into like now you know, you have your thing going full time and you're going full steam ahead. You're booked every weekend. So,
Appreciate that, man.
you know, definitely props to you for keeping the knowledge and moving it forward and making it make sense for you, for your growth and your development. So yeah, again, you know, it's an honor to hear that.
What's going on, DJ family? DJ Reese here. Every Monday at 9 a.m., I'm dropping a new podcast episode where I'm highlighting some of the dopest DJs out there that are creating vibes at all the venues that they're DJing at. If you're a new beginner DJ, you need new tips, well, you got to check out WeCreateTheVibes.com. Man, I appreciate you, man, because like you really, like, yo, you open, like you really opened up my eyes. Like I was like blind as hell. Like seriously, like even to this day, of course, I don't take every gig. Like I turn down a lot of stuff, but like it has to, like everything can't be a money grab. Like I don't do this for the money. Like that's like straight up. I don't do this for the money because there's a lot of, I mean, it's like just from DJing certain events, I know what I don't like. So like it's a lot of stuff I don't even care. Like I'm just not going to do that. Even if the pay is well, I'm a lot older. I do respect my time to 100%, but I feel like it does matter the type of events you do DJ too. Like I feel like that's another thing that a lot of DJs get it messed up. Yeah, it has to make sense, man. Like now catch me out here DJing 1-year-old birthday parties. Like that makes no sense for me.
And you know that's your lane now. Like
that's lame though, man. That makes no sense. Like who are you like? I mean, like who's really seeing you play? Like, is it for the money or like who's really seeing you play at a 1-year-old birthday party?
For sure, but I still don't take that away from the person that wants to play those 1-year-old parties, because it's like just the same person that wants to be like a teacher or something. It's like they do it with an audience or somebody in mind. So if you're putting yourself out of the equation and doing it because it makes you happy, then play that party. And I think it has to make sense in the way of it makes that whatever you're playing or party that much greater.
Absolutely.
You come into it and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go. I know exactly what to expect.
Yep. I'm going to take it to another level. I'm going to give y'all experience y'all never met before, but most people don't do that though. But
yeah, no, that's true. Right. So it actually happened to me this weekend. I had 2 gigs because I was here for a few days. I played this one party that I got booked for that I really like, who I'm gonna, you know, start coming maybe back and forth every 3-4 months now, which is, you know, a huge blessing. And there was another friend that asked me to play this dive bar called TVA, and I just love that place because I just feel like for me it's a place where I get to test where I'm at. It's kind of just like it's like the dojo for you know, my musical brain. And maybe, you know, I don't make a lot of money while I'm playing, but it's not even about that. It's like, okay, whoever's there is gonna go on this ride with me, and I may completely lose the crowd tonight, but this is a chance I'm willing to take to see where I can push this, you know.
I like that, and I feel like for you to go on it, like you got to be strong inside, because you see some DJs that might lose a crowd, and it's like, yo, they feel like their night's over, they can't recover. But for you, you're willing to test that boundary. That's dope, because a lot of people will just play it safe. Like, and the one thing I really like about house music too, I mean, it's so, to me, like what your underground house music is different from you don't know what you're going to expect. If you're coming from the crowd, you don't know exactly the record you're going to expect. I feel like when you're going to whatever these parties, like, you know, they're going to play this, they're going to play, there's a good chance they're going to play this. No, you don't know what they're going to play when you're going to an underground scene. I feel like that is amazing. And I remember the first the party that you took me to, I think it was on Wall Street. This is like mad long ago. And I know you couldn't have the phone or whatever, and I think it was off of residentadvisor.net.
Was it at the basement?
Yes.
Okay.
I know any songs that night, and that was probably like one of the best parties I've been to in my life, and I still talk about that party to this day. But yeah, that was probably one of the best parties.
I've been waiting I don't know if they do any more events there, but I've been dying to go back. Like,
I don't
I
think
just
they do.
remember,
I'll be checking the website too, yo. And I've been checking it for like years
yeah,
years and years and years. And yeah, I haven't seen anything like on there. But yeah, that shit was lit. Like that was a vibe. Like the animation. I mean, I don't think anybody knew probably most of the songs that was going on there, and everybody was having the dopest time whatsoever.
I mean the nerds knew some of it. Like I
Oh
remember,
yeah,
I think you probably met Lou there, the
yeah,
ball short,
Velasco, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Velasco.
I remember, man. I still remember that day to the fullest. Like that shit was like like I don't think people would understand. Like if you're used to partying a certain way, and like I don't know, maybe if you party at like certain rinky dinky ass spots, but like this is a different vibe. This is a different atmosphere. I don't think a lot of people would be like ready for something like that. Like that shit was dope.
Yeah, I mean it's a matter of being open-minded because I feel like the audience is very open-minded.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
audience there is super open minded. But
yeah,
like I'll DJ for people who are not open minded. Like they literally want the same cookie cutter. Or like if I DJ, I don't even care. I'm gonna say on the podcast. I don't care. So when I DJ weddings for like say like white couples,
yeah,
typically I'm gonna play the top but basically literally what the top 100 whatever shit that came out depending. Now when I play for black couples, it gotta be like the certain urban hits, the certain shit that you got, the certain Beyonce records you have to play. After wow, that's corny as shit. Like, are y'all not open to anything else? I I have to play this Beyond. I have to play these type of records. So I like that about house. Like, and not with all. I feel like with certain genres, because there's different genres within house. I feel like some genres within house or some DJs they're very particular. Like, oh, I just play tech house or I play minimal techno or whatever. But still, I still feel like there's still more variety and it's still more of a chance of like, yo, I may have never heard this before.
yeah. I
With
mean,
other DJ, nah, you're going to hear everything they play, you have heard before. You know?
yeah, I would definitely, the audience is very trusting. And I feel like it goes into two things where it's they trust you with their music and it's also trusting you with your energy. Like the
Mm.
energy you bring on stage is felt in the way you mix. Like you said earlier, where you know somebody loses the room and you see that in somebody in those kind of parties, like if you showing that, you can really just evacuate a room. Whereas if you just keep that composure, I mean, however you decide to do it, right? Like for me, I always look at it like if I'm, you know, playing ball or something, I'm having the time of my life. It's like if somebody just blocked me, I'm like, all right, cool. I know how to not shoot it next time.
Right.
But guarantee I got the ball now and I'm gonna go for this drive and you know, and I'm gonna bust that ass.
Absolutely. Yo, so speaking of record labels, man, we both interned at Capitol Records. Now I gotta ask, you
Yeah.
started, so you're on your second record label, but I
Yeah.
want to talk about the first record label, Nil.
Uh-huh.
Now, did your experience interning at Capitol help you start the label? Like what did you learn at Capitol that maybe had translated to you starting your record label, your first record label, Nil?
The main thing is that, you know, believe in the music. You know, we were kind of set on like bullshit tasks. They did believe in they believed in their product completely. They had a team behind their product. And even though, you know, when you're doing it independent and you're completely doing it alone, you don't have a marketing team, you don't have a budget, you're basically funding everything out of pocket.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in that thing enough to want to spend that money, because you don't know if you're going to make anything back to it. I think that's a huge thing that you got to be willing to say bye-bye to. If you have no faith in it, it's not going to go anywhere. And I think that was probably the main thing that definitely helped me in launching labels. Like every release, and you know, at the time was something that I felt was missing and something I really believed in, like 100%. I just felt like so NO was also an acronym, and part of the acronym was next in line. So that was what I felt was next for, I guess, the iteration of underground dance music. Yeah, going back to what I was saying about it being next in line was I just felt like that was going to be the next, I guess, what I thought was going to be a hit record, right, in underground, and that people were going to gravitate towards too. You know, we had about 7 releases, and we did small runs of vinyl. I would say at most, I think we did 700. And for all releases, we've been able to sell out of all of them, probably within, a month or less. So I think we were doing something right. Yeah, that's that. I guess that's what that taught me.
Very, very, very dope, man. Man, so what are some mistakes that you're running? Just you have two labels now. So what are some mistakes that maybe you have made running a record label? What are some mistakes that you see that are out there when it comes to running a record label?
Definitely poor time management, poor and 100% poor communication. Um, with that, I mean is like you to do it from vinyl, you have to make sure because of certain deadlines. For example, it's like certain plants in Europe, they don't press between July to September because it's so hot
Okay.
that if it's just these record plants, I think they probably burn records at like probably over like 300 degrees. So you're talking about this industrial space that's probably getting just as hot. So you're getting these records off the press that are like malleable. So you're not getting straight records. They start to warp. All sorts of things can go wrong. So you have probably about 2 months, and on top of that, you have to make sure you're fitting into their timeline because everybody's trying to, have a hit record for the summertime because summertime is, spring and summertime is festival season. Um, and so you want to make sure you have your promos ready. You want to make sure, and that just comes with just being on top of everybody that you're working with, from the mastering engineer to your art person to the person who's getting your labels to the person who's doing your masters and your stampers, and then finally your vinyl. So it's definitely just about, again, like time, the time management of like, who do I need to contact at this time, making sure that all your affairs are in order. Because with me, as far as like when it comes to running a label, I don't rush my artist. Some labels, they do rush their artists to fit into certain deadlines. I have a rolling, I make sure that I like roll my communication if my artist is not ready. Because I'll never put out a record if my artist is not 100% on board with it. And that's the other communication piece, is like finding out, especially if your artist is a touring DJ or a touring producer, you want to make sure that at least that they're, devoting some time to work on, basically, your contract. Like you paid them for a service, and at some point, you are collecting on that service. So with my artists, I make sure that, I put whatever, negotiation we make. Yeah, I'll be honest about my business dealings. I pay most of the money to my artists, from 75 to 100%, depending upon my cost. And sometimes we can talk about paying them up front, whether it be a deposit or, they make, until I reach a certain amount of record sales, which is what distributors do. And again, I make sure that's communicated beforehand, because some people, they don't know the business. And I know so many artists, especially in the underground, that there will be a record label owner that really wants their music, and they don't communicate even about payment. Like, I know people that haven't been paid for huge records.
Wow. Wow.
But
So,
but
are people making deals in like the house music industry without like contracts and things of that nature?
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%. And for me, I try to get my paperwork in order, because it's like, I know how to do right for myself. I've been doing right by myself my whole life. Like, I wake up to myself, but I want to make sure I'm doing right for the people that I'm working with, because, truth be told, that comes back around and it bites you in the ass real bad. Like, I can't afford to have that karma come back on me, because I have more to lose than somebody that, grew up with like a trust fund that has unlimited funds.
Absolutely.
So to me, I would definitely take the whole like working class mentality of just like, these guys need to pay rent. Like, there are things that need to happen in order to make this work. So I basically talk to artists, like, I'm like, I could draw up a small contract for us, and because I do also have to register with the performing rights organization with Gemma. So you do have to pay fees on that as well. Because let's say they get, and we had this happen with one record where it was licensed for a compilation. We wanted to make sure that they were registered, so that way they could make royalties anytime that was played anywhere. So I try to make sure that my artists, anybody I'm working with, like they have their paperwork in order. I have my paperwork in order. Just so again, like I can do right by everybody. Like I feel good going to sleep when I know that it's like, I would say not that people are taking care of me, but I'm taking care of the people that I know are doing within their best interest for me. You know
Absolutely.
what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like when you treat people good, they show up for you. And I definitely feel like that with like running a label. It's like they'll give you their best work at the moment because you're being so like attentive. And to me, it's not even about the best work of like making money or making noise. For me, it's like their best work of the genre. You
Yeah,
know,
they'll
like
put their best foot forward because they know you are there for them, which
yeah,
is important, man. Even like a 9 to 5 environment, like that's. I feel like a lot of people do their best work, like for their employer or their boss, knowing that their boss or employer actually gives a damn about them, actually cares about them, treats them with respect. I feel like those are the type, like when you're in that type of environment, you're gonna go through a brick wall, you're gonna go through glass for your boss because they care about you. But when they
yeah.
don't care about you, then I feel like your work is not going to be the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the best thing about that is when it comes to, being creative and, producing music is like when you're also in that environment, one of the biggest factors of, or one of the biggest inhibitors of creativity is eliminating that stress. When an artist can come and give you stress free, like from the heart music, like you got something special. And even if it doesn't sell like a million copies, it could change people on the dance floor in a way that, like that excites me. Like that gives me goosebumps thinking about.
Nah, very dope, man. So you have another record label, 2 record labels. What's the name of the second label?
The second one is called the Big Neck Bass.
Big Neck Bass. All right. Talk to me about the Big Neck Bass. Where do you get the name from, first off, and tell me a little bit about the label. Are there different releases from Nil or very similar music?
I mean, so it's still going to be underground dance music for sure. And I would say, I mean, obviously, the bass is going to be the driving element. Like, I still want that to have sort of like bass characteristics where, so when I play, I feel like I have a lot of groove in my bass lines. Like, that's what a lot of people say about me is like, I know how to control a floor weaving through different bass lines and things like that. So I definitely want like that low end element to be distinct in a majority of the records that are put out on the label, to have that characteristic where it's like to sort of treat the bass where it's like it's a melody. It's like a focal point of the music as opposed to just being an afterthought or a supporting element to music. And with that in mind, like, so the first release, I'm really trusting with my artist. He's doing an acid house EP. We haven't done an acid house EP
Mm-hmm.
on No, but if you
Okay.
when you hear the release, you'll see what I'm talking about. Like these are different. Not I want to say different, like because it could be like a 4-bar bass line, but just the way that it's done, it just feels like something fresh. Um, and it's from playing the records, like it works on the floor really well, and it usually ends up becoming a record. I already have the promo material, and I haven't even we don't even have promos out. Just a few people that are playing it. It's so far doing pretty well. Um,
Nice.
but the name came actually as a joke. I forgot what podcast a friend of mine were listening to, but I know there was a comedian Bill Burr, and he was
Yeah,
talking about.
he's funny as shit.
Oh, Bill Burr's hilarious,
He's
man.
funny as hell.
he was
I,
talking about he was talking about, I forgot, like something like really manly men with big necks or like having big necks.
okay.
And then he was saying how like he's not one of those men because he's like one of the little neck guys. And then me and my friend, we were just like cracking up about this because we had both met in Denver. We were having a show that weekend, and we kept like talking about the big, like we were just being stupid and like looking at people's necks and be like, oh, that's a little neck guy, that's a big neck guy.
That's funny as
And
shit.
yeah, it's hilarious. And then I just thought about, I was like, yo, how hilarious would it be to like have a track or an EP called Big Neck Bass? And then we were both just like sort of cracking up hysterically about the idea. And a year passed, and
I would just constantly hear the name in the back of my head, like Big Neck Bass. And I was like, the fact that it's still such a prevalent thought in my mind signifies to me that there's something there. There's something that keeps calling me back to it. So then I just decided, I was just like, so Nil is a co-run project with Velasco and I. And with that label, so we're both like huge music purveyors in terms of like quality of music. And we both have to agree 100% on the release. Like, we will not put out a release if somebody's 95%, that's not good enough.
Okay.
It has to be like a firm 100. And he has some projects going on. He has a lot of just like opportunities that he's been really moving forward with, and we just haven't had time to like really sit with music and say, okay, this is something that we want to put forward. And I feel like now I'm ready to finally get into a place where I'm pushing my ideas forward and my output. So Big Neck Bass is going to have 2 outlets. There's going to be Big Neck Bass Digital, and then there's just going to be the vinyl, and the vinyl is going to be strictly related to dance music. Whereas the digital aspect is going to be, so I got back into producing and things like that. So I'm making beats again, working on like different beat tapes.
I ask you that too.
Yeah.
But all right, so I know you. Well, I won't say you start off. When I met you, I know you were. I would say like no, of course you was in the house, but I know you were a little more into hip hop. Now, I'm just asking. Now, are we slightly transitioning back? Are you still like? Are you even? Because I don't even listen to hip hop like that anymore. But like especially like the current stuff, I'm not really paying attention. And if I do need it, I just go on the charts, and I'm not actively like listening to a album. Like I'm not actually doing that. Like I'm listening more like FKJ, more like cats who are more instrumentalists and DJs as well. Like I'm listening more even like soul artists. Like I'm not even like I gotta feel it. Like I can't listen to like damaging. I can't listen to damaging lyrics. That's one thing I told myself I'm not ever doing. I can't listen to people talking about killing and shooting each other. That's not part of my DNA. It's not part of my lifestyle. But I want to know: are you actually listening to any hip hop, or even old school or new school, or any whatsoever?
Well, I mean, I'll always listen to old school hip hop. Always, like, especially my favorite producers. Like that'll always be something that I do. I definitely listen to some of the new stuff, and it's not so much about, because yeah, you're right. There is like really negative, damaging content that's out there. You have artists that are glorifying like taking antidepressants, like it's the thing to do, and seeing it in my scene, like drugs can be really harmful. So I hope that there within that scene there's more education on how damaging that could be, because especially when you're messing with brain chemistry, like you could be changing and ruining somebody's life forever.
Yeah.
But I will say this: the production aspect I'm in love with.
I enjoy that. Lyrics is terrible, but yeah, the beats though.
Yeah, the beats are amazing. Like I feel like there's more musical elements, and especially when you're talking about the idea of big neck bass, even in like trap music, there's like melodies and bass lines.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think that's like something that's so, so fucking dope. Like I can't even say it more than that. It just makes you feel a certain way when it's just hitting you, and it brings you to a place. So I'm definitely, I wouldn't say transitioning back, because I never felt like I transitioned out. I just because I've always been creating, and I think with the big neck digital side, it'll be definitely more of an emphasis on some of the non-dance music related stuff. Like I would love to reach out to different like jazz artists and things like that, and just really expand what that can look like, but also keeping the element of the label in mind of like the bass being its own melodic thing at the forefront. How that can look like, honestly, the opportunities are endless. But definitely I do see myself putting out a lot of these beat tapes. I'm probably like at least within the past couple of months, like 80-90 beats in.
Bring them out, man. Stop playing.
I gotta
gotta hear them, man. Don't like don't hold on it. like I get it. A lot of people, I mean, I know so many DJs, producers that like, yo, they have shit from like 10 years, like 10 years worth of shit they haven't let out. And I'm like, yo, like, is this shit just for you to listen to? Like, yo, you let that shit out. Like, don't be scared. Like, let it out. You know?
Yeah.
Like, people
I
sit
mean,
on music so long, you know?
so that's been my big project. My big project was just because it's so much like content, to send it to an outside mastering house would just cost me a fortune. So I actually saved up some money. I bought some like mastering plugins. So I've been going through each, just, you know, I take certain, I have like different schedule throughout different week. Like I'll spend 2 days of the week just digging for dance music. That's it. That's all I'm doing for like, you know, 8-9 hours. And then I have like another day where I'm just digging for samples. And then I have another day where I'm just working on edits. And then I have one day where I'm just working on beats. And then like the last day, I'm just like working on mixing down some of these tracks that I've been working on. So, you know, if I had more volunteers, like that, oh man, these things would be out a long time ago. But when you're a one-man army, it's
tough,
it's
man.
a huge undertaking.
It's tough. I'm actually looking for editor today. I'm gonna give you a website too. It's dope. I don't want to talk about the website on here because people might get offended, but it's dope.
Okay.
Like it'll fit you in your budget. Like literally, like you won't even know your money's missing to pay somebody to do some stuff.
Awesome. Cause yeah, it's just it's definitely a lot. I know the one thing I'm not negotiating though is just the digging for dance music, because that's just
yep.
There's certain rabbit holes. There's certain rabbit holes you can't talk about to certain people.
Nah, absolutely. So my question to you, man, you're not that I haven't seen people do this, but you're the first guy I've seen like face to face DJ with a DJ partner. Like the first guy, like officially I've seen do that. Man, like I feel like you have to have a crazy amount of chemistry. Got to be on the same page. I mean, how is it DJing with another DJ? Like having a DJ partner, being on the same set. One DJ's on the left deck, the other DJ's you're on the right deck. Like, how is that experience? And you know, how is it?
Well, when it's the right person, it's electric. So this weekend, I played with Lou. The last time I played with Lou, or Velasco. Last time I played with Velasco was 2019 at Watergate in Berlin.
Okay.
And then before then, I was just, you know, playing with Lou all the time. So we had built something that's been special for years. So honestly, I love playing with Lou because Lou's one of those guys that he brings the best out of me. And I damn sure try to bring the best out of him. Like there's just so much into, because I think what helps make it is, again, the communication piece. Like if I'm playing with somebody, I'm letting them know, it's like, okay, I'm going to set you up with this. This record is going to sound like this. Like either like you have an option, you can take it up or you can keep it going. But right now, like this is what I'm on. I've seen it fail, and I've been in back-to-backs where it fails, where it's just like somebody's just playing with their ego. And I think where it makes it really special is when you drop that ego and you're open to that person's, because basically it's just like you're painting a piece together.
Right. You got this, I'm adding this piece, then you add another, or a puzzle. Like you, absolutely.
I grew up
work together too. It's lovely. Like, you guys are very cohesive. Like you guys work well together. I've seen it. So
yeah, I mean, honestly, like I said, it's something so special. And I think, part of the background, I think that helps me as well is like, I grew up playing basketball. I'm 5'6" on a good day. I got to be a point guard. You got to trust your players. So it's like when you grow up with that mentality and you grow up like, it's like, when we're in the shit, we're in it together and we're getting out of it. I think that, again, you can drop that ego and you can just go in it. And I have another good friend that we're working on right now, playing South America the end of April. His name is Rama. And he's another guy that's like an electric back-to-back person. But because he he came to me early in his development. So we've been able to cultivate that early of just like, this is not for us. This is for them. Now, how do we understand each other to deliver them this beautiful message? I love it. Again,
y'all got the right mindset for real. Like that's what I love about you're the way you all right. So how were you as a student at Ramapo? I feel like you're very I feel like you're a quiet person, but you're a man of thought. Like you don't really say too much, but I just feel like you're not like you're always thinking, but I just feel like you know how to assess certain situations. You know when to input yourself, not to input. Like I don't know, you just like cool, calm, collective, but you pay attention. Like you know what's up.
Yeah, I mean, as a student, so I spent a lot of high school doing dumb shit, like without a doubt. So I got that out of my system early.
Okay.
So when I went to college, it's like I wasn't getting caught up like partying and drinking all the time. For me, it was focused. Like I remember Ramapo, I decided to the first year I was gonna go there, I gave up my dorm so I could get free housing next year because I was like, oh, let me save some money if I could get free housing, like because housing's expensive.
Shit. Bro,
So
people think about that income and coming. Oh my God. I thought about that when I went to grad school. I didn't even think about that undergrad. I was like, I ain't paid 30 racks. That shit. Yo, yo.
yeah, because well, I think what also put me there was before I went to school in Bridgeport, that put me in a 30 grand hole. So I was like, I don't need to get more than where I'm at right now. Like I'm already in the red. Um, so yeah, I remember just like countless times where I'd be like coming across campus, like I'd see people going out and I'm walking from my car all the way in the commuter lot to go to, the room I was crashing in with like a crate of records, my MPC, and like a portable turntable. And it was just like a good friend of mine, like that's just what we did all night. It was just like, we don't need to do anything else. So I was definitely about just like evolving myself. I think I was already early in the game of like, I done the partying, I did this, I did that. I didn't need to do it again.
Absolutely. Yeah. You mature mindset, man. Like, yeah, like when I first met you, like, yeah, mature mindset. Cause not a lot of people carry themselves the way you carried yourself at that early age. Like, man, different, man. In a very good way too. Like, like salute you. Like you're different in a great way. Like, I mean, I said it earlier, like, yo, you really like as far as DJing and how you look at music, like, man, yeah, you transformed my mind, man. I didn't think like you're not just like I think some people think you're just like you're a DJ, you're just playing music. It is what it no, you're not just playing music, man. Like it's deeper than that. Like it's
It is.
way deeper than that. And I don't think people like realize that too. Like
So talking about that, I was talking about this moment I had probably about a year ago. It was probably the most, actually, I had two moments that were really special to me, but the one that I'm talking about most recently, I actually got emotional while playing. I never thought it would ever happen, but I remember it was this party right before New Year's, and it's probably about like 8:30 a.m. and the dance floor, like it was a small spot, probably like 150 plus, and then there's people outside, but everybody that was outside was inside, so it was like the room was just like to the brim. And I remember playing this one edit that my friend made that I still think is like one of the most beautiful records I've ever heard in my life. And I just remember when I played it, it was like the sun was coming into the room. And I just looked at everybody and they had their heads in the air, smiles on their faces, their eyes were closed. And I just felt like I just felt it getting wet. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do this in front of people.
Nah, that's a beautiful moment though. That's fire though, man. That tells me like, you're tapped in. Like you're really connected to music. Like this is not a gimmick. This is not some TikTok shit. This is not like none of that. It's not any of these house gimmicks where you have a costume on and none of that shit. No, this some real shit. Like you really feel what you're playing.
Well, like you said, being tapped in, I feel like once you tapped into how music makes you feel, once you can really single that one feeling that one track gives you, and then you start to take that to other records, it changes your life completely. And I had, again, like I'm so blessed that people teach me what that, how to do that. And then it's just a matter of just like it's like you learn a new language.
That's true.
You learn how to project that language because now you have the vocabulary. Okay, the song makes you feel sad. I want to bring the room down a little bit because there's too much energy. So you play that sad song a little bit just to, introduce some different emotion. And you're like, okay, let me ride this, maybe two more records, and then we start bringing them to where I start to feel happy again. It's sort of like that.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's dope. Yeah, it's that musical journey, man.
Yeah.
Super fire, man. So of course, went through the IG. I see you traveling. I mean, you've been traveling though. Been doing your traveling. been doing your thing. I gotta ask, man, for traveling DJs, we need some tips, man. What are some things that a traveling DJ should take with them on their gigs? What are some things that you need so that your gig can go smoothly?
So definitely, if you're playing, if you're playing vinyl, you can't bring a backup. But let's say you have a thumb drive or anything like that, always bring an exact replica of your digital music. Always. That's like the first thing honestly, that's one of the first things I do before I start packing. I make a backup of my current hard drive, and I make sure that that one stays close to me, just because you don't know what's gonna happen. Definitely bring a 1/4-inch adapter.
Smart. Smart.
Always bring a 1/4-inch adapter, because you never know when you're gonna need one. Actually, I just got introduced to this one recently. Bring your own pair of slides, man.
Okay.
Because when you get to the hotel or whatever Airbnb you're staying at, like especially if you've been like connecting flights and you've been carrying records around, you just want to relax a little bit. As soon as you get there, take your shoes off, throw those slides on. You're like, okay, now I can work. I also have, so depending if if you play in a room that has a lot of like smoke, definitely like the European clubs, they smoke a lot, and they smoke indoors. I have a scent-proof laundry bag. That's very important to me, because it's like, I don't want to put that in a bag and then it like seeps through the rest of my clothes and I'm smelling like a freaking ashtray the entire time I'm there. I've done it before and it's not my favorite.
Yeah, cigarette smells the worst. I don't know how people smoke cigarettes. The worst.
Yeah.
Ever.
Especially like some warehouses, they let it happen. Like nobody stops them. So like you're just playing in like a giant chimney of smoke. Yeah. Earplugs.
That's a good one right there.
Definitely earplugs. And I would say, if you can, if you're giving a rider, ask for new socks.
That's a good one too. All right.
A friend had told me that and it changed my life. Like he was like, ask the promoter for new socks. And I put in my rider, I was like, a fresh pair of socks. And I mean, obviously they're not gonna buy you bullshit socks. Like, you're the performer. So they're gonna buy you a nice, clean pair of socks. But right before you get on and you put on those new socks, it's no feeling like it.
Feel like a brand new man.
Completely. And and then after that, the essentials, toothbrush, all your other stuff. But I would say those are my main things. Is like, you want comfort and you just want to just have comfort and security. Those are the two most important things that you got to rely on when you're traveling, because when shit goes wrong and you're not home, it goes wrong badly.
So true. And like, what can you do when it goes wrong and you don't have your shit on you, yo? You don't have what you need, your essentials.
I've seen guys like play festivals with one thumb drive that they lost, and it's like, then they're having to go to whatever store's open to buy one, find people to send the music. I mean, luckily some of them are like big names where they can get like 20 gigs in like an hour, but not everybody's like that.
Who wants to take that risk? That's
exactly.
What's your mentality like going into any of your gigs? How do you approach your gigs?
So actually, I was reflecting on this on Saturday morning before I went on, because I started to get nervous on Friday. And I realized that that's always, I'll never stop getting nervous. And I realized that I never want to stop getting nervous. I had one of my friends who's like, he's definitely on a much higher plane than I am in terms of like being a superstar DJ, because I'm so far from that. But I remember him telling me, he's like, the moment you stop caring about what it is, do something else.
That's
he was like, because then that shows that, number one, you're not invested to how good your performance is going to be. You're not invested to move the crowd forward. You're not invested to move the party forward. And you're just kind of not invested all around. He's like, for that, just find something that excites you again. And every time I get nervous, I remind myself, I'm like, it's because I care.
Yep. No, that's a good, that's so crazy.
Yeah. And I try to meditate. I try to meditate depending what time I'm playing too. Like, let's say I have like the 6 a.m., 7 a.m. slot. I will sleep on the front end and then show up, you know, like 2 hours before my set, because I don't want to be, you know, partying up all night. And then some guys do that, and then, you know, that's where people, they start getting into drugs to help them stay awake. But I'd rather be there fresh and just like front load and just come with energy. Just because I just think I make better decisions when I'm rested.
I like that, man. What's the biggest lesson you learned from DJing?
Biggest lesson I learned: believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Believe in your abilities. Believe in the power to change, or to not change, but to influence people. And that can be, you know, positive or negative. But be humble enough that you can take the accountability to make it positive. Because again, it's like, if not you, someone else is going to do it. So if you have that in your heart, let it be you. But again, you have to be able to believe in yourself to actually do that.
Man, that's so true, man. So how can people find you, man? How can people get in contact with you?
So there's a carrier pigeon that leaves 42nd and 7th. Just put a note on it and just it'll fly to me. No, just kidding. I mean, I have my Instagram handles. I probably need to get a TikTok at some point. I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. My handle's always gonna be C is for Chavez, like as in Cookie Monster. You know, C is for Cookie, C is for Chavez. Obviously, you know, Big Neck Bass. You'll probably find, right now I'm looking at distribution with this one outlet called Small Black Dots. So if you're familiar with Small Black Dots in Berlin, Big Neck Bass 001 probably should be, if all goes well, and we're still on schedule right now.
It will go well.
Yeah, it will.
It will.
We're still scheduled to release probably the end of July, early August. And then, yeah, you know, just, I guess, you know, I would say right now, just follow the handles, because I'm definitely still a word of mouth name. Those I feel like this weekend was a reflection of like those that know, and have bought so many more people to the mix now. Because I remember playing rooms that are like not even 5 people sometimes, you know, 5-10 people, and now it's like, I mean, I could for sure pack a room that's like 150, 200, 150 to 200. You know, I've played as big as rooms that are like 600-700. So it's like somewhere in that range is like, and this has all been just, you know, the graces of whoever's up there, or my talent, if you will. You know, people talking. So, but I would say for the most part, definitely check my handles. Right now, I'm mainly active on IG, but you're gonna put me on to this discovery thing, and we're gonna sort this out, right?
Yes, sir. Man, Chavez, my brother, it's always a blessing to chop it up. Ladies and gentlemen, that was another episode of We Create the Vibes podcast. This week's special guest, no other than Jersey's own. He's in Utah now, ladies and gents. Chavez, two-time record label owner.